Ah, there you are, Angel Bob. How's life?
Hey guys, my name's DocJade, and welcome to Bobs and Angels. Bobs and Angels reworks and overhauls almost every part of Vanilla Factorial, incorporating nearly all of Bob's mods by Bobbing About, and the Angels mods by Arch666Angel, adding tons of new buildings, fluids, and items to automate. There's a ton to do, so let's get started. As I do the usual rocket debris cleanup, let me introduce Dr. Katz, who will be joining me on this run. Say hi, Katz.
Le service de traduction est actuellement indisponible.
Close enough. Katz is a world-renowned astrophysicist from Mars, who seems to have lied on their resume, but they're pretty good at the game, so I'll just let it slide for now. Additionally, to try to make the game more interesting, we're using a mod that hides all of the researches that we currently don't have all the prerequisite researches for that research researched, which ends up being more of an annoyance than anything, but we'll talk about that later. Each of us start with a burner ore crusher, which turns raw ores from the ground into crushed ores, which can then be smelted into plates, since you can't just smelt the raw ores directly. Oh no. No. Not even 5 minutes in, and we already have a stone byproduct. Fun. I'll grab trees and coal while Kat starts crushing this new ore called sapphirite, which can supposedly be sorted into iron and copper ore, but when smelted directly, it just turns into iron plates. More plates, and we unlock basic logistics, which comes with some pretty slow belts, which are half of the speed of a standard yellow belt, and steam power, which looks almost normal, besides the addition of copper and stone pipes, odd, and a steam-powered inserter. Once we make some copper, we'll unlock red science, which takes iron gears and basic circuit boards, which are made of wooden boards and wire. The wooden boards are made of wood, if you couldn't guess that already. Well then, how do we get copper? Right above our coal patch is some stereotype, which is weirdly also blue, and when crushed can be smelted into copper plates. And it's finally sunk in that I'm going to need to automate wood somehow. It's a wood mod. It's a wood mod. It's a wood mod. That's a problem for future me. Right now, I'll just get my hands on some wood the old-fashioned way, then handcraft a lab, which we can power with a burner electric generator, which apparently we already had unlocked. The biters are also pink on the map instead of red for some reason. Automation. Exploring the vicinity, Kat spotted this puffer nest thing, which appears to give you delicious chicken sandwiches when mined, and looking at the biters, they seem pretty normal, other than the nests being devitalized. Whatever that means. Right above them is a desert tree, mining of which gives you a ton of wood, and another tree? Where does the wood come from? Anyway, back to the science, burner generator and a lab, which has an additional slot for alien plant life samples. I'm sure we'll figure out what those are later, but for now I'll just handcraft some red science. First up is automation. No. Gem processing. I'll ignore that and start beating my wood, while Katz works on our first smelting array for iron. While they worked on that, I set up a basic automation for a bit of red science, gawked at how slow the basic belts are again, and immediately ran out of power. Fine, I'll do steam power then. The lake holds its own secrets, however. A Santa Ray fish. Interesting. I can't wait to have to breed fish together. Steam power is the same as always, except Bob Angels changes the color of the buildings based on their tier.
Why are you yellow?
With a hopefully slightly more stable source of power, we'll research electric miners. We don't have any use for the crushed stone that comes out of the smelting setup yet, and we're making quite a bit of it, so we just decided to turn it into stone and stockpile it for now. I took a peek at the research tree, and we can research basic algae processing, which lets us turn water into green and brown algae. What for? No idea. There's also washing 1, which unlocks a seafloor pump that pumps mud, a washing plant, clarifiers, and a 5-step process that lets us rinse off mud water bit by bit to get mud as an item, and eventually resulting in saline water. More power and electric miners, but I'm still not sure how we're supposed to automate wood. I have a feeling that the algae is involved somehow. Maybe. Kat nabbed one of those desert trees to see if it would unlock anything wood-related. It didn't. Whatever, we'll just burn that bridge when we cross it, I suppose. Using our newly acquired electric miners, I'll run some coal up for power, then take a look at military, since we'll probably need to deal with some biters soon. Or maybe not. For some reason, we aren't emitting any pollution. Weird. Maybe Bobs and Angels rebalances the biters too? I don't know. Well, that's one less thing to worry about, I guess. More ore into the processor and building a smelter, which I spent way too long trying to make in a fancy way before just giving up and doing it normally. Since coal already has to go up pretty far for steam power, we decided that we might as well just start the bus up there too. So up goes copper and iron. Military was researched. Why? I forgot. Then algae was queued, and I took a peek at Automation 2, which the level 2 assemblers, now red, take steel gears and steel pipes. That sounds weirdly expensive. Algae, which, as I suspected, revealed our path to trees. We will have to grow them in arboretums, then cut the resulting trees into individual logs using saw blades. We need to research composting first, however, which will let us make soil from mud and compost, sand from thin mud water, and soil again from sand instead of mud this time, in case you want your base to have more of a desert vibe. Wood processing is also available now, which will let us turn cellulose fiber, which is made from algae, into wood pellets, and those wood pellets can be turned into wood bricks. What for? Well, as is common at the beginning of mod packs like this, I have no idea yet. I got scared looking at basic chemistry, so we'll circle back to it later. Washing for mud, and now is as good as a time as ever to set up some algae production, which I didn't have the bricks for. The algae farm is a pretty big building, and for fun, I'll make some mud next to it as well. Which I could use 5 of these washing plants to finish off the recipe, but the first step is just water and viscous mud water from the seafloor pump. Composting. Unable to stay on task for more than 10 seconds, I plugged in algae, which immediately obliterated my ears. Jeez, this thing is loud. Using a clarifier, we can get rid of most waste fluids, and in this case, I don't need the byproduct heavy mud water for anything, so it can just get thrown away to let us collect more mud. Arboretum. To actually grow the trees, we'll need soil, tree seeds, and water. The tree seeds are made in tree seed generators, brilliantly named, and those take trees as an ingredient. Luckily, Cat's already picked up that desert tree earlier. For the soil, we need compost, which is made in the composter from a bunch of different natural items, which thankfully includes algae. With those tree seeds cooking, in goes an arboretum, and with a bit of soil, it would grow a tree, but I got sidetracked and decided to fully automate them from scratch instead, which I managed to complete with only a few minor distractions. Every mod I've played that lets you automate wood tends to demand a lot of it later on, so I'm planning ahead a bit here by making probably way too many trees, while also making the entire setup tileable. While doing that, Kat started researching wood processing and chemistry. When Factorio mods mention chemistry, I tend to get a bit worried, because more often than not, it just gets wildly complicated without much benefit. Let's hope Bangles isn't too bad. Chemistry unlocks the liquefier, electrolyzer, dirt-water electrolysis, which makes oxygen and hydrogen with a byproduct of slag, and carbon dioxide, which is made directly from coal. Okay, maybe this is too many trees. With that running and the trees growing, thereafter they'll be thrown into this assembler with some saw blades made from iron plates, and out comes wood. The wood cutting recipe has a 50-50 chance to give you back the saw blade after every tree cut, which is interesting, if not a little strange. While I was doing that, Cats realized that wood bricks are a decent source of fuel, and started making those out of green algae. And they also realized that since we have Bob's inserters installed, inserters can pick up things in the same spot that they dropped them. Useful? No. But it is funny. Wood onto the bus, and I'll set up basic circuit boards. The assembler ratios are 1 board to 2 circuits, and 1 wire to 1 circuit. Using Bob's inserters again, we can make inserters place things at 90-degree angles. Deep down in my soul, this hurts every time I use it, but it's useful. Designing using basic underground belts is also a bit tricky, since they only go an incredible, above average distance of 2 tiles. I ended up avoiding them as much as possible.
Hi, Cat's here. I finally remembered to hit record, so now you'll start seeing my perspective as well. While Doc finishes the circuits, I'll attach a little mall to the bus, use it to make more mud.
I'm done with circuits!
Doc's done with the circuits, and I expand power a bit. I tried using the steam inserters from Bob's Logistics, but they weren't very interesting, so we almost never used them again.
While Cats was doing that, I was studying the blade, which I must have really messed up to make gears, but whatever. We need them for red science anyway, which henceforth I will now build post-haste. Metallurgy. We'll talk about it in a second. Old habits do die hard though, so I accidentally set up the science with copper plates instead of basic circuits. Correction made. Red science made. Cats is currently researching coal processing to try and improve power again, but what I'd like to get my hands on is some faster belts, which are locked behind tin. So to make that tin, we'll need advanced tin smelting and casting. Tin, and a lot of upcoming ores, require being sorted out from the other base ores mined from the ground before being melted down and cast into plates. There's also tinned wire. Interesting. Tin comes from bobmonium ore, which we haven't gotten our grubby little mitts on yet, so we'll have to go get that. Then once we've crushed it down as usual, we can stick it in an ore sorting facility to directly separate out the tin from it, along with silicon and slag. No idea what to do with the slag, so I'll just stick it in a chest and deal with it later. Logistics, which revealed green science, but it's locked behind electronics, and those require lead. To use the tin, first we need to turn it into tin ingots inside this blast furnace, which is not electric, so in goes coal. And the tin ingots need to be melted down into molten tin with an induction furnace, which is electric, so in no goes coal. The resulting liquid tin gets put in a casting machine, which finally turns it into the plates that we can use for not a whole lot right now, mostly just belts and whatever this is. Whatever, onto the bus it goes, and I'll start automating yellow belts. I also queued long inserters and near inserters, which unlike base Factorio are not new items, but instead upgrades that apply to the inserters that you already have unlocked, letting you pick new spots to move items to and from. With long inserters, designing setups is going to be so much easier. Unlocking near inserters lets you change where inside of the tile you drop, meaning you can pick what side of the belt an item will end up on, which is pretty useful. Back to belt. Yellow belts take basic belts, so iron gears and plates for those, then add tin and viola. I also happen to know that green science, yes, that one, takes inserters, which are easy, so in those go, but the science also craves green circuits, which making of those needs solder, which we don't have, and basic electronic components, which yet again, we don't have. For the components, we can easily make the tinned wire we need from copper wire and tin plates, but we still do need the carbon.
Carbon is made by taking coal, crushing it into crushed coal, smelting it into coke, and steaming it into carbon. But, as it turns out, you get about double the energy per coal if you turn it into carbon like this instead of directly burning it. So I'll do that, feed it into the boilers, and set the rest up to Doc later for science. Now onto solder, which we need lead for. Like tin, lead gets sorted out from crushed ore, this time from rubite, a patch of which is right above our bobmonium. Drilling, crushing, and sorting as usual, with a byproduct of nickel this time, but unlike tin, lead processing needs us to fill the blast furnace with oxygen when making the ingots, additionally giving us sulfur dioxide as a waste gas. To make the oxygen for that, we can use an electrolyzer to separate water into its two component gases, toss the byproduct slag in a box, and tank the excess hydrogen in case we need it later. And the resulting lead ingots head south to get mixed in with tin to make molten solder, which is then cast into the solder items that we need.
With that carbon and solder ready, I started putting together green circuits. Tinned wire is as easy as it gets, just tin plus wire. Then I worked out and planned out the electronic components, wooden boards, and green circuit ratios. While I routed belts for that, Cats updated our iron smelting setup to use ore sorting and molten metals, which made it more efficient. With green circuits complete, over they go to belts and inserters, where I've magically pre-prepared the green science assemblers, although I did neglect to make the inserters longer. And with that, our first green science. 3.5 hours in. With green science unlocked, now what? Well, unfortunately, you'll have to find that out next time. I'd like to take a moment to thank my supporters on Ko-fi. Yes, it's been a long time since my last video, but I ended up canceling what I had been previously working on, so that wasted a lot of time. Sorry about that. This series will be pretty long though, so at least you have that to look forward to. Nothing super interesting happened in this episode, so there's not a whole lot to talk about, but I'd like to once again thank everyone that bought the floppy disks from the last video, all of whom are now in this list too. It was crazy to see the discs sell out so fast. And that's all for today. My name's DocJade. Bye-bye. We have Spider-Tron at home.